checkup on what's going on with the dojo, what the dojo, and who has done what. We're going to start out with, I don't know how to pronounce Dileli's name. Let's read. When I joined the program 2 weeks ago, my score was borderline between two cohorts. Decided that I wanted to start with the lower one as my safe pick. Now my rapid went a little bit above 950. I see the next cohort still has Giannatos and more Polgar. I can move up without really changing much in my chess diet. My favorite game, a loss with many lessons. Cool. Let's check out Dileli. And let's look at this activity. Right, and we'll look what they did. So some good work there. Hopefully we'll see that game that they referenced. I might even pull it up. I have a feeling we're going to find it. And then this is a great breakdown here in terms of time. Let's see non-dojo. Some openings. Okay. Now, actually, it's kind of interesting. Talk about openings briefly. People in the dojo are not allowed to study openings until they are 1200. And so, one cool thing that we wanted to do forever was develop a more innovative way of doing openings. And I feel like we have that now, where Jack has got this new thing. We're going to be rolling it out this week. And I created some basic repertoires for people between 12 and 1800. And basically the idea is, right, that a false sale that people get is the idea that openings are going to save their soul and that they're going to become really monstrous players with openings. It's just not true. And there's definitely, even at my level, it's definitely oversold. But in any case, you don't need openings, and they're counterproductive if you're doing it too much early on. And so what we've done is for the range of 1200 to 1800, we're creating these repertoires, giving a more realistic approach that will be more helpful, both in terms of playing the openings well and also developing your chess. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I worked hard on it last week. We're kind of setting it up this week. So anyways, there it is. So, Dileli, let's go see if you got a game here, Baus. And, I kind of want to make sure that Dileli's game is the one that it's in a... Let's just pick one. Let's pick one, Baus. This is the most recent one. Okay, now a video I actually intend to make today is about how people really under 1200 are playing way too fast. And I got turned on to it because I see people have done this thing where they bring in their lead chess times, and I can then see exactamundo how fast they're moving. So this was a 30-second increment, but you can just see right away Dileli's moving boom, 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 right? All right, let's get into it. And I have a whole theory about why this is happening, but I'm going to get it into the video later. Okay, h6 is a highfalutin move, not really clear that it's necessary. Okay. Now, this will speak to the point of what I mean by people taking too long. So, first of all, this is kind of a difficult moment for me as well. I feel like h6 isn't a great move. And now, though we're kind of out of the opening, it's time to come up with some plans. And here he spent 20 seconds. I can say 20 seconds, I believe, here because they had 30 seconds, right? So 20 seconds. And it's a hard decision. This one's a hard decision. And knight d5 is controversial, of course, because it is not a developing move. Okay. I don't know what to do. I just know that I would take a little bit longer. All right, here we go. Knight d5, castles. Knight e7. Now, what I want you to see about this, knight e7, is that you are developing the queen and taking off the bad bishop. And what you got is an abstract quality, which is the bishop pair, right? So it's a very abstract thing. And you gave up this tempo, and then black got another tempo here. So one of the things you should be thinking about is just time here. Okay, so now you cash in and say pawns are people. Okay, now very hard position to judge. I think black's doing fine. And one thing that's important to note about a position like this is we have an opposite color bishop situation, right? And that's just important because in a situation like that, you want to, if you gain the initiative, black gains the initiative on the light squares, it's like he's up a piece on the light squares. Same thing for you on the dark squares. Okay, let's see what you do. Okay. Frisky. Notice you're just moving way too fast. Your opponent is too. And it's hard for you to annotate the game after if you're moving so fast, if that makes sense, right? Because you want to be thinking about these things. Now that's a terrible move because now the e5 pawn is very weak. Let's hope you play bishop c3. Ooh, I like bishop c3 a lot more. But okay, bishop e3, queen a4. Now you're giving him the business. Good moves. All right, good moves. Good moves. Oh, I missed it too. I missed it too, Bows. I missed it too. So nice move by your opponent, dude. So how did that happen? So it's like we were doing good. We guessed we needed to play rook fd1 right there. Pop. And then he got us. Okay. So one of the things that I can tell about the annotations here is that during the game and after, white didn't sense how difficult this position was to play. Okay? I want to say for myself, it's a very concrete position, a lot of things going on. And the reason I would just want to say it is before we start looking in the specifics of what's actually happening in the position, what we should notice is that the annotations by D. Lely have stopped. And usually that's a sign that D. Lely doesn't really sense the huge questions, the mammoth questions that now present in this position. Whereas earlier, I think dude was seeing some qualities, like he was after the bishop, he was after the pawn structure, right? But now's the opportunity, the analysis, to really go deep and do some variations, and also thinking about what is happening in the position. So for example, it's a big deal that it's black's move here. It's a very big deal. We have a bishop and knight scenario, and the c-pawn is weak. The knight really owes us a tempo. So these are some of the basic things we can say. The big question, I think, for black should be, well, boss, can I play rook b2 and establish the rook on the 7th? To me, it looks like a very promising move. Okay. Pop. Bring the knight back. Good. f6. Good. Knight d2. Okay. Bishop b6. Good. Someone needs to play rook ac1. No. Now, white doesn't like knight c4, but it must be said, white's in a little trouble here. And that's part of the thing to understand now, is that the rook on the 7th is going to be so hectic once it lands on b2. So, for example, if I was annotating this game or had a student doing this, I would want to look at the variation rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here. And then there's a very basic question, which is, boss, am I toast because rook b2 is coming? Now, maybe you can finesse it, for example. Maybe you can go here. And let's say my bishop moves away. Then you take this one. And the main purpose of that is to deny the opportunity to double, right? To double like that. So this would be a variation to put into our notes. If I was black, I would want to think about maybe not taking because now your rook on d1 is active. Okay. Now, one thing about rook endgames is dude isn't being sensitive. Neither player is thinking about the activity. They're just thinking about the pawns. And rook c6 might be fine, but I can, rook b2 is the big question. For example, this would be a variation to put into our notes. And black is winning, right? Okay. Notice, neither player is thinking that the endgame could be amazingly complicated and difficult. They're all playing system one here, just cruising around. Cruising around. Okay, wait, time out. A bunch of people in the chat saying things. A lot of times, my friends, I'm just so involved that I don't look. So I'm going to look here. Yes, we're talking about merch. The merch is amazing. Thank you very much. I was at a tournament this weekend, had my shirt that said Pawns Aren't People. I'm a little worried, honestly, going out in public with that shirt, Somebody's gonna get mad at me. Okay, so here we go. Rook c6, passive. Okay, so again, pawn hunting, and really, to win the game, black is gonna need not a pawn, but the activity. Good move. Good move. Now, rook c2 I feel is like a must. Rook b1. Ooh, rook f1. What are we doing, Baus? What's the rook? Nobody. Rook c2. Rook c2. Okay, so look. This is a great example of what I'm going to talk about later in the vid I'm going to do later today, which is these people aren't thinking. And especially in the end game, they're just thinking, they're pretending, or their mind is tricking them into thinking that everything is obvious. It's not obvious. This is hard. This is hard work here. Okay, good. So that was D. Lely, and boss, I got my order. You know what? Let's just go. Let's do it a little differently today. We'll go in the order that it's is on this recent tab. It's kind of interesting here. So this is Fred G. Fred G's 3 to 4. Hello. I finished the first requirements for 0 to 3. Good program. No comments. I like it. Just did my first rapid tournament. 15 rounds. Performance 1339. That's pretty real. It will be updated in July with the new French ranking, but I want to do all the lessons and climb quietly your program. Okay, Fred, now listen, buddy. You are not alone in somebody who's in a much lower cohort. We have people that are also in a much higher cohort. And in principle, there's nothing illegal about it. But in general, I would say stick to the correct cohort that you're supposed to be in, both. It's better for you. It's better also for the people in your cohort. You'll spar with them. You'll get on the Discord. You'll talk with them. And they should truly be your peers. So one of the things I'm hoping with the program is DM Hokie, Jack, and maybe he's already instituted this, but when you enter the dojo training program now, instead of it being like, which cohort would you like to be in? And then giving you some suggestions, it's going to tell you. It's just going to assign you the cohort. And later you can change it if you want, but from the beginning, just as a procedural, it's going to be like, Baus. This is the one you're in, Baus. This is the one you're in. Okay, here we go. Let's look at Fred here. So, Fred did some good work, did some tactics. Now remember, this is 0-300, so I was expect this is going to be mate and ones. Let's see what he's got. Mate and ones. Okay, good. And also, what is the blue? Oh, everyone's first chess workbook part 1. Okay, good, man. Good. And then we do have a game analysis. Oh, excuse me. No, we have no game analysis. And so really what we can see with some minimal work, dude got over the hump to 3 to 400. So that's great, dude. And we'll look at this a little bit. Tactics. Boom. Again, everyone's first chess workbook mostly. Tactics. Good. Good, dude. So this dude's going to fly up. Obviously, is going to be in a couple more graduation shows. I'm going to guess there's no games, but we'll check. No games. Okay, good. So that's Fred G. Let's go and do some more. I believe This is Quintilius, correctamundo. Great program, structured approach, tasks, and forcing beginners to slow down. Like I said, I'm gonna do a vid about that later today. Okay, here's Quintilius activity. Lots of tactics, bows, but this is just the one they're in now. That's some good work. Quintilius is doing some good work. You can just see it right there. And lots of games and analysis. Yeah. This thing about games analysis, let me just put it into perspective about how I think it pertains to everybody. I was at a tournament this weekend, hanging out with a friend of mine, an older dude, and he never made GM and desperately wants to do it, even though he's older. He's 45 now. And I was like, listen, boss, we all know that you need to be studying your games. And what the dojo does is it forces you to publish the games. This is the thing, like we got a lot of things going on in the dojo, a lot of beautiful things like the score breakdown, tie breakdown. But the real secret sauce, this is what I told him, and I do believe this. The real secret sauce is if you publish the games in our database with the intention that somebody's going to look at them, somebody you might talk with them, somebody higher rated might have a look and chat with you about the game, your notes, right? Just with the thought that maybe someone's going to look at it will force your thinking to be much clearer, right? Whereas for years, I know people have heard me say this already 1,000 times. For years as a coach, when I had people try to do it before our lessons, they did miserable work. They did miserable work. But here, for people put in the database, so many good analyses that we've seen. Okay, so let's take a look. Quintilius is doing great. Let's see if there's any games. Oh, we got some. All right, here we go. So, pop. This is Quintilius, and Quintilius is black. So this is 20, basically, it looks kind of weird time control. Anyways, we have some times at the beginning. It's kind of a weird, maybe someone was late or something. I don't know. So this is a Chess Dojo League game. Let's go into it. So far, so good. Everybody's playing principled moves. Now, we got to say h6, not entirely necessary, but I get why you were afraid of it, okay? What would be the intense move here? The intense move would be here and then here. And this is a known position. Is it hectic? Yes, it is. It's very hectic. A standard variation could go pop, pop, and maybe pop, something like that. Something like that could go on. Okay, so here we go. Both sides making, let's call it unnecessary pawn moves. Okay. We saw this knight d5 here in the previous game, and it's kind of like white doesn't know what to do anymore. And then, pops the knight in there. Now, here's an interesting question. In general, it is a terrible mistake to play ED. There might be situations where it's not as bad, but the main issue here is that when you play ED, you need to be sensitive to the fact that you just killed your bishop. Now, let's do this. Now, by the way, Quintilius here is at the 8 to 900, so I don't have a huge need to see Quintilius play big, beautiful positional moves here. Mostly, I just want to see Quintilius not hang some pieces. But from our perspective, let's pay attention to the bishop on c4 that white just killed. Okay, knight d4, good move. I like this move better than knight e7 because knight e7 would give white the opportunity to play d4 and maybe give a little bit of room. Okay, now bishop g4, exclam, good move. Now dude doesn't want to get his king shattered. He needs to take, and now look at that. You got monster bishops. The bishop on c4 is dead. Pop, pop, beautiful. Thank you very much. Now, white should definitely take with the queen. And I want to say that this is a nice position. But one thing about this particular situation that's interesting is from a pawns or people perspective, what's happening is when white takes there on f3, dude is saying, oh, it's really cool that I bludgeoned the pawns, and white's definitely better. But honestly, I don't know. That's a beautiful light square bishop that we got going on, right? And a kind of lame-o knight. But anyways, we took. And now we have a moment. I think actually this position is really nasty for white because the bishop is just so bad on c4. We do need a good plan here, though. So let's see what black does. I think f5 is very good looking. Good move. And now we need another one. I'm drawn to rook f6. But we have other options, too. Whoa, a little frisky. Now, something, Quintilius, if you're watching this, is g5 might be a good move, but this is a perfect opportunity for you to put into words what your thought process is when you play g5. Question for me, are you planning on playing in the Philadelphia Open and or World Open in a few weeks? No, I just got back from a tournament this morning, flew in this morning, and I am playing 2 senior old man events in July. So that's my next thing coming up. Okay, so g5, I'm not sure I get it. And again, white needs to be super sensitive to get their bishop free. Pronto. Not sensitive. Don't get it, really. Yeah, you're just helping. Oh, okay. Good. Now notice what just happened is that you allowed the bishop to be mobilized. You did it, Baus. You were the one who got frisky over here. And at the bare minimum, when white plays b5, we need to play a5. You know, we need to shut it down. And and we need to see it coming. So when you give that an exclam, I'm not sure. I feel like you could do several things to improve your position, like bring your king up. Now white, this is like, if that dude gets in, big progress. Now, we're going to see what black does. He needs to play something like rook g7 to stop the bishop from coming in. Doesn't stop him. Does white find bishop d7? No, does not. Just thinking half a second here. I still want rook g7. Check to the miserable king. Mate, thank you very much. Welcome to the dojo. Yeah, that's some mated twos, boss. So disregard all that fancy talk I was given about positional chess. This is how the games are being decided in the under 1,000 cohort. That's a welcome to the dojo moment right there. All right, good, Quintilius. That was good, man. Here, just a couple notes. That's pretty good notes. I would say, again, when you give yourself or your opponent some exclams, write it out. Write it out why you think it's great. And now you know to at least be a little bit more sensitive to the bad piece. Someday you will have a bad piece and will need to feel the urgency of getting the thing out. Okay, here we go. Next is Kostya. Kostya, aka Chess Improver, arguably should have been on the show last week, but just is getting to it now. Where's Kostya? Baus. Oh no. Where's Kostya? Oh, Kostya's way over here, Baus, right? Oh, Kostya. Where'd you go, Baus? Where'd you go, Baus? There he is. The book recommendations, especially LCTRW, man. I just drew a blank on what that I forgot what it was, dude. Learn Chess the Right Way, book 3. And Jesse's advice to stop wasting time on openings at my level. Beautiful. And then when Kostya hits 1200, Chess Improver, aka Kostya, is allowed to do some openings. Okay, good. And they got that's a good road to hoe there. 1350 for the next one. We'll look at the activity, basically mostly tactics, but they just started here, so that's not representative. That's a little bit more representative. We got tactics, endgames. Looking good, man. Looking good. Okay, let's just click around here for a second. Okay. So learn chess the right way. Then let's do endgame. Algorithm, good. The blunder games. Okay, so the blunder games is this new thing we instituted for Dojo 2.0, which is playing quicker games. You don't necessarily have to analyze them, but just try not to blunder stuff. Okay, good. Now I have a feeling we're not going to find games in here, but let's take a look. No. Okay, but this is good, man. This is really good. And then clearly Kostya's doing the work, and we'll have some games for us soon. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, congratulations. Yeah. And by the way, making it, I feel like there's several fundamental benchmarks. I mean, 100 points is always a benchmark, but definitely getting over 1,000, definitely I feel like 1,600's a big one, 2,000's a big one. Titles like National Master, FIDE Master, IMGM, that kind of thing. Candidate Master. All those are really nice benchmarks. And breaking 1,000 is definitely one of them. 1,000, it means you really developed a sense of not hanging your stuff too much, And that's what the blender games are all about. Okay, good. Let's look at Nate. I've lost my intuitive sense where everybody is here. There's Nate. Game changers. Okay, so this is cool. Nate has some good feedback and some negative feedback, some criticism. So let's read it out. So, game changers. Long-time control. Chess.com default only goes up to 60 minutes, and it's hard to find players. But I suppose that's what this cohort is for. Nevertheless, I was playing 15 minutes before, which was hurting my chess. 60 minutes gave me far more time to exercise my chess brains. Most games are shorter than that, but I still took my time rather than being rushed like before. Reviewing and annotating, exploring positions. Absolutely, dude. Unlearning fancy chess opening videos. That's right, dude. Those things, man. Those things. Okay. Let's think about this. Learn chess the right way seems a little too basic for me. I'm about halfway through, so maybe I still haven't gotten to the meat yet, but now I'm graduated, so we'll see what the next cohort brings, and I make no promises that I won't backslide. Now, one thing about all these books is we chose them, especially the ones in the lower cohorts, based on what we were hearing from a lot of chess teachers, especially things in the lower cohort. Like I have the ambition to read everything in the dojo, but a lot of that stuff in the lower cohorts I haven't. And that's on my agenda. But what I want to say is for Dojo 3.0, we have a Reddit up where I'm hoping people can upvote and downvote that thing. Maybe I can find it here. And the idea there is we had a variety of ways for people to give us feedback for Dojo 3.0, but it was never clear, like, what do people feel most strongly about. So we wanted to use the Reddit just for the upvote, downvote function. So there's the link there. Okay, next up, what am I expected to learn from these master games? I review and or memorize them, pick up a few tidbits along the way, but why are these games so important? Okay. So if you're watching, you don't know what we're talking about here. The every cohort has a list of classic games, and what we tried to do was to pick one player, especially once we get above 1,000, one player where you can gain a sense of the past, player of the past, famous player, world champion, and you can gain a sense of a couple things. A little bit of chess culture, learning who they are, getting a sense of playing enough of their games so that you get a sense of what that player's chess values were. Who were their competition? Just learning the names of that player's cohorts and be like, oh, chess culture, you get into it. And also, these are simply great games. And you need to play through strong games to gain a sense of how to play. And I think it's better also to have older games that are not like, if you look at a lot of the newer games from the last 20 years, they're very more computer driven and less idea driven. And at the beginning, at least for Nate, that's where dude needs to be. Further, there is the argument that I'm sympathetic to, I'm not sold 100%, that your chess education needs to have something chronological about it, to start with the romantics and work your way up. And at the very least, I think you should have some familiarity with the classics of old, right? Okay, so for example, when Nate goes up, Nate is going to be doing a different player. One more. Overall, I still struggle with learning chess. It feels like a more intuitive process, and I'm not sure how much I improved short of just playing a lot. Okay, good. Knows all is here. Nice. Let's check out Nate. We got some games, and let's look at the last cohort. Lots of games and analysis. Beautiful. That's what I like to see. Time breakdown, 52 hours of doing the games and analysis. I like it a lot, man. I like it a lot. Okay, let's go look at some of these games. Beautiful. Here's Nate. This is a fairly recent game. And Nate is black. So here we go. Now, one reason not to study openings is your opponents can do some weird stuff, man. They're going to do some weird stuff. Like knight c3 is a little odd. It's not terrible, but a little odd. And a3 is just flamingly weird. Okay? Losing time. So for example, it would be nice to see something like, I guess I can't do the annotations. I can make variations, but I can't do annotations. Something like a funky move mark with a3. One of the cool things, Nate, about now your current state where you're in 11 to 1200 is you are going to be able to win a lot of games just by people giving away time. So we want to note it whenever they give us free temping. Good move. Good move. Good. Good. Simple chess, dude. Simple chess. You don't need opening books to play this beautiful setup that you're doing. B4. Okay. Now, here's definitely a question about where to put the bishop. Intuitively, I would like to go to D6. But let's look at what happens. Pop, pop. And now you pull it back. Okay. Good. Weird. Let's read what you write. I'm not sure why I moved my bishop up. Maybe I was anticipating that he might try to pin my knight, but it doesn't matter because I was going to castle soon anyway. Now, definitely you want to, what you meant to say was, hey, I should have castled. And that you missed the activation of this poor piece here, knight c5. And then this is Dr. Ugly here with bishop c8. You know I don't like it. You know I don't like it. Now, what dude should definitely consider is taking the knight and then claiming that this is a solid outpost. After you take the knight, then this said knight can no longer be kicked. Good move. And now we have one question really, and that is, can we play e5? That's the only question. Right, so that should be our variation here. We're threatening e4. For example, let me give you an example about what the variation might look like. e5. Then you ask yourself, can white mess with me, or did I just gain a valuable tempo? Because this bishop is threatening to come out. The tempo I'm gaining is e4. Now, is it true? Honestly, I'm not even sure yet. Maybe white can play c4. And then after e4, pop, 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 and looks like we're winning. Looks like we won a piece. But did I know it immediately? No. I had to look. I had to look. I wasn't certain. Okay. And so e5 looks strong. Nice central move. In addition to threatening something and opening our bishop, we are controlling this square. Now, maybe I'm still wrong, for example. Look, b5, pop. I think you're wrong, buddy. Right? So I was wrong. I was wrong. It happens all the time. But more importantly, it happens all the time. These are the variations that we need to look for. Okay, bishop b7. Good move. Good because that knight needs to do something. Pop. Now, big choice for white. Now, this looks fine, but we could now play either queen e7 or knight d7, intending ye old e5. And e5 would then threaten to win a piece. And maybe more importantly, it would be nice to take away this square from dude's pieces. Poor move. White needs to be thinking about getting their stuff out, such as c4, rook c1. Rook c8, please. Nice. See, it's easy to develop. Queen c7, please. Oh, weird. Okay, let's see if there's any notes. I wasn't sure if he was planning to take a6, which would have resulted in... But there's no a6, Bows. He can't take on a6. So let's say the obvious. The reason queen c7 at least looks correctamundo is because we are developing our queen, getting this rook ready for action. Now it's weird because we just talked forever about bishop a6. But now we're letting him have a6. And why are we playing f5? Bows, sink that knight. Sink him. Sink him. Now there you can strangle that knight. Will strangle him. Strangle the poor son. Oh, now you're going on to the journey with rook g6 coming up. Why isn't white taking your pawn? Now knight c3. He's begging for it. The man's begging for it. At least, Kostya, I didn't say stick it in him, right? At least I didn't do that. Kostya sometimes thinks I'm a little vulgar here, you know? Nah, boss. There we go. This is the kind of brutality I like. There we go. Check to the miserable king. Okay, this is very nice that you're giving us a evaluation. And let's read what you write. I didn't really have a plan, but now his g1 rook is weak and his king is liable to guard g1. It sounds like that. There it sounds like a legal term. He's liable. Also, he can't push his g2 pawn because his queen is hanging. I think black is better in this position because my pieces have more space and more control, and his pieces are cramped and defensive, and his king is under threat. But he's doing a good job of defending, so I don't think anyone is winning. Okay, good. Good. And I will say, I definitely think you're winning here, but that's fine to say that, you know, you think black is just better. There's a lot of positions, for example, where if you give him to Carlsen and just be like, you know, for him, it's just like, dude, I'm obviously winning this thing. That's how I feel about this. But there's positions where he would say that about my games where I'd be like, I'm just better. And he'd be like, no, boss, the game is over. What are you talking about, Baus? And this one, it's over because the king is poor and the rook is destroyed on g1. Okay, but that's fine. The analysis was good. Knight e2. Now we got some interesting questions, and we need to really finish dude off here. So we do need a good move. What did you play? I don't like it. Why? Because your queen was being a real jerk face over there. Now, does that mean I have something better? I don't know yet. I don't know. I have to look. So one thing we have to say is that this knight can potentially become annoying. And we need to find some way of opening up this bishop and our rooks onto the white position, right? So I think we're probably best served just by taking the knight on e2, saying that that is a good defender. We could play, for example, knight e2, queen e2, and something like rook g3, intending d4, ed, bishop f3, but also just building the position. Very hard for white to move. Okay, so queen e5. You're still better, but now white definitely should consider f4 because that would inconvenience your queen a little bit. Okay, dude does it. Nice move. Kraai, did you blunder that? Woo! Dang, I wasn't realizing we had a tactical genius, and I was talking all this positional garbage. Dude finds rook takes d3, end of the game. Welcome to the dojo. Welcome to the dojo. Dang, I was talking all this smack about queen e5. There's some real threats going on here, Kraai. What's wrong with you, man? No, this is very unpleasant, dude. It's got to play rook a2 or something. Or queen e1, maybe. Maybe he's got to play queen e1. Yeah. Dude, rook takes d3? Rook takes d3, boss? You're on your way. What are we talking about here? Nate, Baus, you're 11 to 1200? Rook takes d3, you're slaying, dude. Good night. d4, please. Let's see d4. Okay. Thank you very much. Uh-huh. Okay, good. There it is, dude. Nate's bringing it, man. Nate's gonna do it. So again, as a standard complaint, I'm gonna say a couple more variations, but this is a good annotation. It's a graduation here. Okay, beautiful. Again, something I'll stress is be sensitive. Note when they give you time, because they're not going to give you pieces that often at this level, but they are going to give you time like this guy did. Okay, let's look at Chris's game. Excuse me, let's look at Chris. Where did Chris go, Baus? He's somewhere in here. There's Nate, Chris. Had not played classical before and am creasing now. I think it's nice that there isn't a set schedule, but I felt a little lost getting started, knowing where to log my games and annotations and tactics. Okay, good. I can imagine. One of the things, just to say something obvious, it was very important to me, especially as an older dude who can be frustrated by technology, that the interface is as seamless as possible. And the Dojo 1.0, man, that was hard. There was a Google Doc, there was this, there was that, and now we have this site where I'm sure it's still some kind of learning curve, right? But it is, hopefully, I know it is, much more intuitive. Okay, let's look at what's going on with Chris here. Okay. So, Here we go. Chris, activity. Oh, look at this, dude. Look at that. 368. 368. That's some real progress. All right, we'll go activity. That's the new cohort. Let's look at the old cohort. Games analysis. Beautiful. Okay, good. So dude did a minimal amount of work and went up immediately, which usually says, hey, dude's going to go up again pretty quick. Not there yet. And if I remember what Chris was saying about the longer games, right? Like once you start playing longer games, you are going to go to the next level. Okay, I think there's some games here. Let's look. Here we go. So Chris is white in this game. And as we see, it is a 30 plus 20 game. And so this must be the minimum time control that you can do for it to count at this level. That's my guess. Also, will be an interesting experiment. So, as I've said before, a lot of times on the Lee chess you can see people's times. So just a very basic question for us going forward is, are the players going to be using their time, or are they going to be going pop, 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 pop? Well, let's find out. So far, no one's using any time. And this is, in fact, like at least the old-time theory here was knight a5. Now, what's hilarious about this move, it's funny that you found this on your own without thinking about the what's happening, is, first of all, it's a very funky move because you're stopping your pawn from going to d3. Various things have been tried here in this position. Fischer and Steinitz both played, for example, this way. Very interesting position. Short later played like that too. Anyways, why am I giving this big old fandangle? Bishop d3 was played by Naka a couple times back in the day, and then recently, like against Fabi just a couple days ago. So this is an interesting move. Okay, now this looks correct, but then knight e4 is coming. Let's talk basics. For the pawn, black has much better development, but what does black have to be sensitive to? Black must be sensitive to the fact that this knight is a chump. Okay, so knight g4, now knight e4, nice move. Holy gabungos. Looks like we're going to have to play h3. And now maybe, well, black is in trouble as far as I can tell. Now, both players are not thinking at all. At all. Black just played queen h4. Very committal decision because now dude is absolutely all in. If there is no mate, it's over. It's over. I don't see a mate. I see the pawn on f2 guarded. Okay, so here we go. Pop. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now we're just up a piece. Meanwhile, not only did we lose a piece for black, but the knight on a5 is still a chump. e4. And yes, good. You could have played bishop takes e4. Good. b3. Okay. Notice you're not thinking at all. Your opponent is not thinking at all. So what's happening here is you are playing a blitz game. Both of you are. You think you're playing a longer game, but you're not. You're not playing a longer game. Looks like that bishop's hanging to me. Thank you very much. Only when the knight is attacked does it feel the need to fix itself. Good move. Good move. I like that. Just get your business out. I've a couple times today I've said good move when it's not true. Now you can't save your queen. Can you do it? Queen g4. Good. Thank you very much. Good move. Bishop b2. Check to the miserable king. Black resigns. Now, can we just say something? Look at that. Look at those times, my friend. Nobody thought at all. So the main thing I want to stress is try not to laugh when you see it. Me too. I'm holding it back. Because what's happening is it's hard to activate System 2. System 2 just means deep thinking. And first of all, it's a muscle that has to be developed. Second of all, no matter who you are, if you're doing a game online, it's very hard to remain focused for the game. It's really difficult, arguably impossible. So what happens is because people are distracted by all the stuff, all the pings and the dings and the zings, right? So it's very difficult to stay focused, and then your body just inherently doesn't want to do System 2. It takes more calories, more effort to do System 2 than it does to just go pop, pop, pop. So what does your body want to do? Your body wants to go pop, 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 and this is what we get. Nobody's improving here because no one's thinking deeply. Okay, that's my rant. And as we have in the chat, Kraai says, this is very true. When one person plays fast, I notice that the opposing player tends to start to speed things up. Right. It's kind of a psychological thing. You see this with kids at scholastic tournaments. Those games can last a couple seconds. It's like a couple seconds long. Those games can go, man. Okay, Chris, let me just say the obvious. I'm going to do a video about this later today. Hopefully get posted soon. Bows. If you slow down, the gains are just, the gains are going to come. You will see so much more, and your game will deepen. And the material for you to annotate will be so much richer for you to look at. Okay. Next up, we got Sledgehammer Gray. Here we go. I believe they're toward the end. So I'm going to start at the end here. Sledgehammer Gray. I have a good memory. 168-point gain. Fantastic. Activity. Tactics, endgame. So we're probably not going to see... Oh, wait a second. Let's go this one. Weird. Okay. Wait a second. Something's going funky on that. I have a feeling we're not going to find any games. And by the way, this graduation, okay, we rebooted the dojo May 1st, and ever since then we've got a lot of more graduations than normal. This week, finally, it mellowed out a little bit. So we had a lot of people, I think, that were just like, they hadn't, before you had to like tell DM Hokey, be like, DM Hokey boss, can you graduate me, man? Can you get me in there? And now it's automated, which makes it easier for everybody. And so I think we're getting a lot of people who are just finally graduating themselves. Let's see if we got any games from Sledgehammer. No. Okay. So I think we'll see Sledgehammer again on this show. Now we got Darmusei. I think Darmusei's been on pretty sure, has been on one of our graduation shows before. So, 100-point game, very good. Activity. End game. Look at that. That's a leg day over here. Leg day. Look at that. Darmusei, as I remember, dude has done some graduations. Really working on the end game. Let's click on this. Silman. Okay, good. So basically, this dude has gone just full to town on the Silman endgame. Yeah, and what I want to stress about this is you are really laying the foundation for a lot of things by doing the endgame. Obviously, there's going to be certain algorithms that you learn to do that you're going to have to be good at anyway, and you will get those positions in your chess career. But more importantly, you're seeing how the pieces move around on a very basic level that even if you get advanced, will still be with you. A lot of famous players, Smyslov, Carlsen, talk about just playing out simple positions when they were kids to get them to the next level. Okay, it looks like dude has not done games and analysis. Let's click on this with the non-dojo shame here. Some blitz, some rapid, some YouTube. Okay, good. Let's see if we got some games. No games. Okay. So Michael, buddy, you're doing great. I love the end game focus. If you were going to skip games and analysis for a little bit and focus on the end game, it's definitely leg day that I think would be good for someone to focus on in that case. Okay, next up we got a true, I guess, the hero of the dojo. Somebody amazing, boss, Mr. Barbarian. So, my friends, we have some people that have to be classified as super users, okay, of the dojo. These are people that are on a mission, my friend. And as Mr. Barbarian says, my progress has been swift and brutal. I think I may hang out in this next rating band until I at least finish the book material I have yet to complete from the previous rating bands. They are no longer recommended, and it bothers me that I spent money on them but didn't finish them. Using what I have learned thus far in the dojo, I was able to defeat a USCF Life Master and my local club 2-3 games this week. Okay, at my local club, right? This to me is validation that the material is working more so than the inflated rating portrayed by leeches. I mean, Baus. The leeches will tell you you're rated 30 million. Also, thank you for the featuring of one of my games. Yeah, so Mr. Barbarian is on the game. If I see a good annotation, I feature the thing, and then I'll show you later. I'll show you where you can find those featured games. All right, what are you saying, Baus? It's right there. So these are some of the featured games that I've done, I think in the last week or so, month maybe. There's Mr. Barbarian's game. Good. So something that's interesting to me, let me just repeat a story I told at the beginning of the stream. I have a friend, dude is 45. Like any 45-year-old, there's like things going on in dude's life. He's an IM, he's obsessed, wants to become a GM. And I'm going to bring him into the dojo. We're going to see what level of concentration dude can bring to it. It's about quality time, you know? And it's so easy if you think you're going to try to improve and then you just do weak sows, looking at YouTube videos or whatever you're doing instead of the deep work of the dojo. So that's, you know, part of the genius of what we're trying to do. We're like, dude, don't think about it. Just do the program and you will make it. Yeah. Sorry about the books, Mr. Barbarian. They will serve you well. You are flying, though. And the point is, like, if you are flying before you finish even most of the recs, great, dude. It just means you're working on your game and you are really crushing it. You will hit a point, maybe soon, where you will have to sit a little bit before your rating progress really goes through the roof. Maybe that's not yet, right? All right, let's click on Mr. Barbarian. I read this in an earlier stream. Adventure awaits, huzzah, I love it. 894 point gain, okay? Look at that, dude. 894. Now, just to be fair, this lead chess thing is a little bit misleading, right? 2394. Let's just take that with a grain of salt, lead chess. Lead chess Baus, you guys, I love you guys. You need to get that rating thing under control. It's like, it's a flagrant foul. It's like somebody, I don't know. I don't mind people taking their clothes off in public, honestly. This hurts me a little bit more. So I was going to say it's like someone taking their clothes off in public. And then I said to myself, I don't have any problem with someone wants to take off their clothes. But yes, I do have a problem when you inflate the ratings so much, Baus. Serial graduators. That's right, dude. All right, let's look at what dude is doing. So first, we're going to go back and look at all these graduations. I mean, he's flying. All right, so we definitely have some endgame. Silman endgame. Dude is doing it. Dude is doing it. And then it might be interesting to see which books dude isn't being able to finish. Games to memorize. So far, maybe we don't have it listed. Time breakdown. Games and analysis. Nice, dude. Nice. I like it. And then tactics, let's see. Pogar mates, dude, very good, very good. All right, I'm liking this a lot. So let's go check out By the way, the last analysis that I remember that I featured that game of Mr. Barbarian, really good notes. And if you want to improve, that's the kind of quality work you're going to need. Local Dude. Okay, so here's Local Dude. This is on Lead Chess. No, excuse me. Port Townsend Spring Classic. All right, so here we go. So here we go. Dude is trying up D4. Jesse's favorite move. Alternatively, he could have played A6. More seriously, I'm not really sure what is going on here. Possibly preventing the potential pin. Either way, haven't experienced this yet, so I just have to revert to principled moves rather than some of the small amount of opening prep I have. So, correct. Now, as we've said, one reason you don't want to go to, there's many reasons you don't want to go too deep at opening theory, but at this level, what you're going to get is a lot of wasted moves, right? And I'm sure there's a rationalization, like, yeah, he's terrified that somehow bishop g5 is going to get him. But also, they haven't suffered yet someone being able to spank them when they don't bring out their dudes. What's the problem with not bringing out your dudes? You're like a basketball coach that's playing with half a team, Mouse. Get him out there on the court, son. All right, here we go. All right. So, since the knight was not developed, it seemed to me that it is a free exchange of a c-pawn for an e-pawn. This will give me a two-pawn center advantage. Okay, this is great in terms of writing it out. So what we can say here is what you have is a Carlsbad position. This is what we call the pawn structure when we get something like e3 and c6. So classic pawn structure, you should note that the drawback is that you've freed the thing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad move, just we want to be aware of it. And I would say if you have a clear advantage, I don't know if we'd put it that far, but if you do, it's because of your extra time, right? So you began the game up a tempo, now you're up 2. Good. Totally bizarre, boss. So, okay, just losing time all over the place. E3, good. Nice simple moves. Nice simple move. I like your E3. Let's bring it out, Baus. Let's bring it out, Baus. I like it a lot. I don't want to talk about it, he says. I feel like this move is the Brian Regan stand-up bit where he shows up at the science fair with a cup of dirt. The teacher says, well, explain it. He says, well, it's a cup with dirt in it. I call it dirt in a cup of dirt. Just give me an F and move on. Well, see, at the very least, dude has internalized my principles. Now, let's talk about it. I am certain that dude had a rationalization for doing this, and that rationalization was probably the fear of knight h5, right? Winning our bishop. You're absolutely right, though. It's unnecessary. What's the right move? It's not a hard call. You want to castle, right? You're going to castle. We'll see what they do. If they play knight h5, yes, sometimes it can be something to worry about, but here it's important to see that knight h5 gives you another tempo. Right? So you started the game up a tempo. Then they gave you 2. Then they gave you 3. And if they played knight h5, which is not a developing move, that would be 4. The way to beat these fools, just say to yourself, 3 tempi are worth a pawn. Right? 3 tempi are worth a pawn. That's a good rule of thumb. All right, h3. Now, no reason to take on d6, right? Because if they take, then your knight gets developed. Now we need a plan. Okay, and now a4. Now, it is true that we need to think about what's happening and that black will probably play for b5. You do have this center, And it is not necessarily super easy all the time to know what to do. In general, that's the queen side is black's strong side of the board, so we shouldn't be in a hurry to make pawn moves over there because the pawn moves are weakening moves. Your strong side is obviously the center and the king side. When black played c4, they went all in on the queen side and gave you control over the center. Okay. Now, I think the key variation here would be f3. And it's not an easy thing to figure out. It could go like this. f3, b5. Then you ask yourself, is that possible? Black says, I don't know, Baus. And you say, e5, I don't like it because the knight takes e5. But then you say, are you sure? And you say, snip. And you say, Baus, I think I just want a piece. Is it complicated? Still a little bit. So the intention of f3 is to do a couple things. If we can get them to take, we will free our rook. If we can get to e5, we will really push away their key defender here, right? And it's not super simple to figure out how they're going to stop e4. And that's a very typical plan in this position. If you wanted to go even more variations, I think rook d8 is an interesting move to talk about here as a way to mechanically stop e4, but the rook doesn't really belong there, right? So that's a problem too. Jack says, people think smoking is a hard habit to break. They clearly haven't played h3. Okay. So a4. Now, I think black should probably consider rook b8 to play for b5 next. Rook e8, fine. By the way, that stops f3. Rook b1. And dude writes, a small threat of attack on the b7 pawn felt right here. After the b2 and c4 pawns are traded, it is minor, but I thought it might prevent the development of the c8 bishop, or at least expose an attack later if it's developed. Okay, now, if you want to play b3, you could do it now. And again, the controversy is, are you helping black by playing on their side of the board? And actually, you write about b3. Yeah. It would be nice, for example, if we could get this situation with bishop b3, because then this pawn is weak. Correct. Okay. And dude instantly blows it with a5. I think the key variation here is rook b8, b3, b5. And then we can talk about how we feel about that position. So a5, incorrect. That's an ugly move. That's just, what are you doing there, Baus? What are you doing on that square, buddy? Good move. Okay, he's getting a little frisky with his one piece. Snippos, hippos. And now we do want a good move here. We're definitely crushing him in the center. We're crushing with development. Let's see what you do. Fine. Now it is time to improve my other knight position. I chose g3 over f4 because there's now the threat of bishop f5. Okay. I'm not sure it's a threat. Because I would say this, if bishop f5 is a threat, it's the idea to secure the f5 square for our knight after trading off this dude. It's also nice maybe to play rook c1 to get this guy going. Knight g3, though, is also, I think, on our agenda because on a prophylactic agenda, we want to stop, we want to control e4, and we want to prevent any kind of knight c2, queen f5 stuff. All right, b6. Check to the miserable queen. Notice dude had to take that way because the other rook, there was knight a7. Now, this is a mildly tense moment because c3 is something that should scare us, okay? Rook c1, and I believe that's probably good. Black should strongly consider g6 now to keep our knight out. And then we could, I believe in white, but it's still pretty messy. Knight f5, I believe in that move. Good, I believe that looks right in any case. Defending knight e7. Good move. g5, and as they say in the business, that can't be it. f3, probably correctamundo. Just move our rook. Thank you very much. Notice how strong the knight on f5 is. From Black's perspective, we should say, Baus, you should use this opportunity to understand how incredible that knight on f5 is, and it's not going nowhere either. Check to the queen. Good move. Good move. It's a little complicated. Bam. Okay, now dude writes, I did not see this during calculation, a product of my tunnel vision. Now, I think what's interesting is I think you might still have been a genius because your play is so strong now because the knight on f5 and the force count around the black king. So I can't see black surviving this position. That's got to be it. That's not going to do much. King f2, good move. And now it's going to be mate. Check. And now we just need to find a mate, Baus. Boom! Oh! 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 Welcome to the dojo. Dude is bringing it, man. Call an ambulance. Look at that move, my friends. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, there's going to be a mate here. Bam, baby. Welcome to the dojo. Look at that one. Bam, baby. Dude, Mr. Barbarian's bringing it, man. I mean, that's good chess. That's good chess. A pattern I've noticed is that a primary weakness is often the transition from opening to middle game. If there's not a direct noticeable attack within at least 2 moves, I tend to make a bad move. This would indicate that I need to work on my positional play in the middle game. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay. First of all, Baus, you've got some actual skills going on. Okay? And I think it's a little bit natural, a little bit of you working on it. But that queen e7, that's a nice move. All right, so just appreciate that. Definitely, even though this was a genius move, you needed to see. Obviously, the dude could play knight c1. Something in terms of positional play is when you do the literature, right? Or we talk about it here on the show. It's good to know words like Carlsbad structure. It's a very interesting dynamic position that you will get good at. And when you have a sense of what the ideas in the Carlsbad structure are, you can definitely learn the plans, and that will contribute to your positional sense. And that positional sense will take time to grow. It's not something that just immediately comes, right? It comes from playing, trying to evaluate positions, thinking about plans, reading some books. I did a video I liked years ago that addresses a lot of those plans called Why the Minority Attack is for Commoners. You could look that up on YouTube. Anyways, that's just an example of a resource where you can learn about the plans in this kind of structure. I really like that you are just winging it in this game, and rightly so. Once the dude plays h6, well, we're just playing chess now. Thank you very much, right? Nordovich, buddy, let me show you something, man. Let me show you something. Bam! Welcome to the dojo. All right, let's look at Tony. Let's go look at Tony. Okay, Tony, where'd you go, Boss? Is Tony somewhere around here? There it is. Playing lots of games and analyzing afterwards has been crucial. All right, let's take a look. 503, dude. 503. That's some serious progress right there. Okay, good. We'll go activity. And then just to make sure here, that's their old cohort. This is the new one. So they did a lot of games analysis, some endgame, some tactics. Let's click around a little bit. Polgar mates in 2. That's what we want to see. Do those Polgar mates in 2, buddy. You're going to find Queen E7. Now think about Queen E7. Let's just talk about the Polgar mates in 2. Pruess, for example, is under the mistaken notion that he's seen all the mates and therefore he doesn't have to do them anymore. And so he's too proud. And you see a lot of players who are titled who are too proud to do the mates in 2. But one of the Polgar mates do are great for a variety of reasons. But just when you think about Queen E7 for a second, if your mind doesn't see it in an instant or in the first couple seconds, you're probably going to miss it. You know, it's only if you have like the patterns really deeply ingrained that boom, you're going to find it. Right? If they're not in the back of your head, like really kind of recently practiced, there's a good chance you're not going to find it. Right? And then that's just such a shame, because then what will happen is then you will lose confidence in your mating and finishing, and you will be a poor attacker. And even if you don't fashion yourself an attacker, you will eventually have to attack someday. We all do. Okay, good. So, Tony is crushing it. And good, let's go see if Tony's got a game for us. Several. Very nice. Let's look at the most recent. Okay, so this is Tony. Tony is black. And this, wait a second. All right, something's wrong here. I feel like this shouldn't qualify for this level of player for the time control. It's too fast. It's too fast. Hold on. Let me go back and see if I can find a different game for Tony. Okay, there we go. Good. I'm glad I checked a different game. Okay, Tony is white here. And we have, so this is going to be an internet game, and it's an hour. So one of the things that'll be interesting for us is as we move up the cohorts, right? Tony is at 15 to 16 now. Will they slow down? All right, the smart money says yes, but you never know. E5, C6, good move, funky. All right, why is G6 funky? Because black has already moved upon to get the bishop out, right? Okay, now when your opponent loses time, that is the cue to open the position. So the first thing, bam, I think should go through anybody's mind here is let's pop him. Let's pop it open with D4. And things can get pretty hot right away. A sample variation might go D4, D6, castles, bishop G7, pop! Now, am I 100% sure? Would I want to do a little bit of analysis to make sure that this is correct, the mundo? I would, but when they lose time like that, that's what we're looking to do. Both players still moving very quickly here. Okay, now one thing about when we say something like the Botvinnik is generally a structure, what we talk about like this. If we just want to be sensitive to the fact that, you know, we're not always going to want to play the same thing, right? So here you're playing a structure, but you're not thinking about what the opponent is giving you. Okay, not needed probably. Yeah, what did somebody say earlier? What did Jack say earlier about H3? Let's go read Jack for a second here. He's up there somewhere. People think smoking is a hard habit to break. They clearly haven't played H3. That's right, Jack. Oh, man. Okay. Now, in defense, the H3 thing is part of what usually is the Botvinnik setup. Usually in the Botvinnik setup, though, the knight is on an F3. A lot of times, one of the bad things about opening study, is that we will often just be playing moves kind of in a rote way instead of thinking what's actually going on in the position. And that's what I feel White is doing here and doing it fairly quickly. So, bishop E3. And dude likes knight G5. Okay. One thing, by the way, just to show an example of something to think about here is, I don't think it works right now, but we should really think strongly about trying to get knight D5 in, because this is our bad piece, and because it's dominated by this pawn, and the bishop is trapped when we do this. Now, the issue is, dude can sacrifice and we lost a pawn, but it's not hard to imagine setting up this knight D5. So this in terms of sensitivity, we should be thinking about that knight. Now, you write about knight G5. I'm with you. The bishop on E6 is Black's best bishop. White is intending F4, which is part of the setup. And I think knight H4 is an example of a rote move because often that's where the knight does go, right? But here it has a good target, the juicy good bishop by Black. Okay, I don't get it. Good move. All right, now I like your position a lot. And that makes no sense, right? And now F5 looks super strong. Let's see if you did it. Pop! There we go. Bishop D7. So, unfortunately for you, your setup has worked wonders. I say unfortunate because, Black didn't put up any resistance. Instead, they played this move no one understood, dislocated their knight, took here, giving you the center, and then just, you're hammering him. Now, this position will still be a technical challenge in that you still need to put dude away and be careful not to let your grip on this situation go. So I like queen D2. Let's see what you did. Good move. See, now this is where the engine, dude, if you're going to use the engine, try to explain it. I don't like A4. No, I don't like it at all. Queen D2, I like it. Now, we need to be sensitive to this potential D5 break. And now I would say we have two candidate moves with queen F2 and rook F2. If we play rook F2, we have to make sure that some weird D5 doesn't work. Does it work? Dude goes this way. Okay. Does D5 work? He doesn't. Okay. So, very spicy situation. Very spicy. Bishop F4. I'm not sure yet. No. I'm just thinking here. It's hot. Let's just say it. So, pop, E5. Can't take because of the knight. So D4. Pop. This is a mess. This is what's called a mess, my friends. Bishop takes. Now, they could take on e3 first, too, if they wanted, but my queen will ultimately be wanting to get over here. Pop. 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 Let's just say it. It's hard to judge this one, my friends. I don't know. I don't have the answers. Don't look at me. This is just some of the stuff that I'm like thinking about. Now, the engine thing, you're doing a crime to yourself, Tony. Because the engine, you're using the position to think about what you would do in the position, or how you think about the position. So what maybe the engine likes CD, bishop f4, but we would want to explain it. Now, one thing we are going to say that I like a lot is I want people to note this. The theory is that as we go up in the cohorts and we have the timestamps, that we will get more and more time usage. And not only that, but that people will use time in the critical positions. So this is definitely a critical position. Black has just introduced a crisis with d5, and we have to do something about it and do things here for 7 minutes. Right? The intuitive moves we want to play quickly. The harder ones we want to play slowly. Okay, here we go. Pop. And dude also thought for a little time here. Pop. Good move. Now we're really crushing him. Bam. The last few moves were best. Best according to whom, boss? Yeah, now you're slaying this dude. Okay. Still ahead 3.5. Bows. Bows. And then you say, this is what I missed. We know why you didn't do it, though, Bows. It's not clear how you're going to mate, dude, from here, especially when you got little time. And so this is some crazy computer gobbledygook you're giving us here with knight takes g6, Bows. You know, that's some gobbledygookity bop, because you still need an answer here, and then I guess the computer would have wanted this. And so I assume the computer's right, but this is the kind of variation that you don't want to just have the computer tell you you needed to do something. You need to look at it. Yeah. For example, if this rook were here, then it wouldn't even work, because it would go queen e5 here, bishop f6, queen h7, and then I escape. I escape! You know, game not over suddenly. Okay, so king h2, natural human move. I don't know what you're doing there. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Now we're just going loco. We got the loco going on here, man. It's a pretty powerful move, actually, dog. I guess that was your intention with bishop e4, too. Okay, but now the dude's got to check, right? Check to the miserable king. Trade the queens. And I assume we're toast here. And then dude lost on time later. Okay, exciting game. So, first of all, a couple things that's nice for us all to see is, you know, this is a harder game. We're going up in the cohorts. People are going to use their time. It would have been, of course, more satisfying for everybody involved if it was, in fact, a longer time control, right? But still, we're seeing something about the quality of player as we go up. Next thing, bows. You can't be using the computer like that. If you want to use the computer, if you feel you've got to, do your own thoughts first and then tell us what the computer found after. And then put in your own words what you think the computer is saying. A lot of times what happens, like in that variation, you didn't dig into what the actual truth was because the computer will make it seem easy. But in fact, there's all these sub-variations, and there's a reason you didn't see it in the game. It was kind of hard. It's kind of hard, boss. Okay, good. I I stopped the scroll, and then now I'm behind. So, my friends, we have one more. This is a famous player in the dojo. This is Knows All. Knows All has been around the dojo for a while, and one of the things I want to say about Knows All is that dude is very helpful in the Discord. People have somebody comes new to the dojo, they got a question. Knows All will help you out. Dude will help you out. All right, hopefully I can find Knows All. There he is. Huge fan of the program. Working on my classical chess has been so much more rewarding than improving at Blitz. I really dig the emphasis on classic games, and the study sessions done in Discord have been quite rewarding. I've also had time to a decent amount of over-the-board games this year, for the first time in my life, and have gained more than 200 points since joining the dojo. There we go. Welcome to the dojo. I'm now feeling comfortable enough that my 1900 USCF and multiple 2000 plus performances match my online ratings to graduate to the next cohort. That's very good, man. Saving the best for last. That's right. Okay, let's dig into Knows. All right, 120 points. By the way, let me just say something obvious. When you go up the cohorts, it's just harder to go to the next one. So anytime you see a higher cohort graduation like this, you gotta respect there was probably some deep work put into there to get there. It's just more competitive. There's fewer people as you go higher, and it gets more competitive as you go higher. Okay, activity. So this is already knows for the next cohort. It's got 80 points, but let's look at what Knows did to get there. That's a lot of work, my friend. That's 703 hours. I was just talking about time. I think you can visually see how much time it takes to make a kind of jump that Knows did. There it is. This, by the way, is a beautiful graphic representation of what your pie graph should generally look like. Little or no openings, games and analysis, endgame, tactics, and some books. Let's click around a little bit. Oh, it's not letting me click. Hold on. Oh, look at that, dude. That's some great work. Art of Attack, great book. New York 1924, Zurich 53. Yeah, there we go. I'm liking that. This is some real. Notice that's just 9%. A lot of times you click on these people with 9%. It's like, I did an algorithm or something. No, Mouse. This dude's done a lot. All right, let's click. Mates in 2. Very good, dude. Woodpecker method. Think like a super GM. Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, I'm liking this a lot. Now let's click on the end game. Film in part 6, the algorithm. Beautiful. And the opening's got nothing. That's fine. That's fine. This is really good, dude. This is inspirational. When I got this buddy I was telling earlier. He's going to come to the dojo. Will he make GM? I'm telling you, it's a hard road. You're an older dude. You got less energy. You got more life obligations. But this is the kind of stuff that people need to see to make it, to be an inspiration. Okay, so here we go. Michael Franco is Knows All. I did not know dude's actual name. Weston, Chicago, North Shore. I didn't know that Knows was living in Chicago. Maybe there isn't living in Chicago, but played in Chicago. I played 3 Indians this last weekend. 3 Indian kids, man, they're rough. My opponent was a college-age Asian man rated over 2,000. Okay, so Knows is black. Let's get into it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I've sparred this position against a friend a while back, but didn't get great positions as black. This is an old line that I even experimented with back in the day as white, where I played the Smith-Morra. And this, of course, you can transpose to. Now, let's see what we get. Then we get the old theory. This is my understanding of what the old theory was. Yeah, great, dude. I like this F5 a lot. And in fact, I have a childhood memory of this position, and I think I saw maybe it in a book or something. You're supposed to play F5, and it was a little bit hard for me to appreciate that this was the right move, because it feels like, oh, the pawns now can get kind of loosey-goosey. And really what it's about is it's about pawns aren't people, and that the queen, if allowed to hang out on e4, will be reasonably strong. But of course, there's a reason they say don't bring out your queen early. So great move. There's certainly kind of trust in it. Now white has a choice. Let's see what they do. Okay, good. Queen h4. I'm now officially out of book, but if we just evaluate the position, black has to be slightly better. I have both center pawns and a slight lead in development. In exchange, white has long-term pressure against my central hanging pawns and a temporary kingside attack. Okay. Good. Now, you do some analysis, and in the end, don't like bishop e7 that much. Thought about it 17 minutes. Okay. Now, it's definitely a rich position, and let's talk about what I'm sure some of your fears were. It's very natural to be afraid of bishop d3, followed by bishop g5, and then you're going to say to yourself, bows. Am I getting wailed on the king side? So even if we believe that we're better, there's good reasons to be fearful about what's happening. On a hopefully helpful note, I can say that if you play d5, and I think you're going to play d5, or maybe I think you should play d5, you are going to get a French structure. And then we want to start talking about the fact that this guy is a chump, right? So part of our long-term goal should be containing that piece. Yeah. So bishop e7, though, obviously speaks to anybody because we're looking at the king. So a variation would be d5, bishop d3, bishop d6, and now either castles or bishop g5. Let's play. This is a little bit of a momentito. My friend, we're having a little bit of a momentito. So here's a problem, for example. If we could get fancy here and say, oh, if he takes, dude, I'll cover this. It's a problem because he whacks us that way and then we're toast. So let's just say d5, bishop d6 would be, I think, the ideal development. But there is a concrete problem in this position here. We need an answer. We need an answer, and I don't know. Well, it might not be so easy. Yeah. That's kind of a difficult moment. Maybe, though, we could go queen e7, castles, and queen f7. And this is a typical Frenchy move where I might get access to this square. And what do I want? I want castle bows. I want a castle and say I'm not worried about this stuff because what? I'm owning the center. My pawns over here are owning the center. Okay, that's just my take. Let's look at what happened. Bishop e7. Okay. Okay, now we need an answer. G6. Okay, so it's obvious. One of the problems now, though, is we might be in a position where we're going to have to start admitting that we're not better, right? We're going to still need to play d5, and there's some good drama that might befall us here on the king side. Okay, so let's look at bishop h6. And that's definitely a fear. Knight h5. Good thought. Knight g5, rook f4. Good variations. And that is the kind of thing you want to see before you want to reassure yourself that you're not just losing immediately like that. So one thing about this for white, by the way, it's one of the nice things you can see from the timestamps is when you write down how much time, let's say you're writing down 13 minutes, it's great that you say it, but you should give us the total time so we have a sense of the global time picture. Say the obvious, white needs a plan, and it needs to involving this dude, right? The dude needs to come in. Castles can't be a bad move to start off with. And now knight d5. So why is knight d5 controversial? Because it's not a developing move, right? So I guess d5 would be the critical move. Perhaps black is, and I think, yeah, black is worried about the e6 pawn as a weakness. I get it, of course, but we gotta boss. we gotta get the guy out. Plus, your hanging pawns control a lot of squares. So now, important to see that your pieces aren't controlling as many squares as whites are. White has a force count advantage, and unless something dire is happening, they need to be playing knight bd2. Let's see what they do. A little bit weird. An absolutely appalling move made after 6 minutes. Not only does it fail tactically, it also makes no sense since my knight will not remain on d5 long. And then great notes, knight bd2, clearly the best move. Only after I made my move did I realize that I'm not threatening to capture on g5 and trade the queens. And we should also say, even if you did change the queens, black is still worse because, hey, worse development. So let's see what variation you give here after knight bd2. Yeah, that's reasonable for white, of course. Let's see, do you have a variation here? It's a little bit hard for me to read it. So rook f4. I was thinking about that. Wait, but this is after the weird bishop e4. So I just wanted to look at knight d2. Okay. So the question would become, for me, is like, well, how do we evaluate the position? And I definitely think white is better, but how much is an interesting question. You can play knight f4, but maybe it's not that special. Maybe we just park it away, and then let's say d5. Got to get our boss out. Got to try to get this knight out of our face. Okay. Yeah, and maybe we're doing okay. I mean, it's not over for us, and white still has a positional challenge here about how to play the position. Okay, so bishop e4, bishop g5. Okay, so let's read the notes. I considered this move, but only saw the variation bishop e7, but then missed knight ce7 when it's all over, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's an interesting miss, and we should say, like, one thing I want us to be aware of, and this is something I'm hoping that can be seen in the dojo, is earlier on in the beginning of the show, we were looking at players who are on 1100, 1200, and I was saying things like thinking about trying to be sensitive to the pieces. What is bishop e4? Fundamentally, it's somebody who's not being sensitive to their knight. Why? Because they don't see what the knight can do. They're like, that's not a pretty piece. It's not doing anything. So I don't know what he's doing. I want to threaten something. I'll forget about the knight for a little bit. Well, boss, your rook is screaming at the knight too, boss. The rooks want to be here and here. They want to look at the black position. Very simple. They're yelling at the knight, bows, bows. So what am I saying? You're going to face a lot of players like this who might have other competencies. They might know how to do puzzle rush at a gazillion level. So it's not like they're not chumps. They might not be chumps. But this kind of failure with bishop e4, I see it all the time. All the time. Okay, so speech over. Bishop e4. When they do the funky move, this is important, and your mind says to yourself, wait a second, dude did not fix his piece, that should give you a green light to really look for tactics. You don't want to, it's easy to not, well, you don't, people say they look for tactics in every position, not really true, you know? But this is a position where it's like we're green lighted now to think about where the tactics come from and to believe in our position, right? So when you take, I don't know if we should believe in our position that much anymore, right? Now white's fine again. So bishop c2. Actually, let's just give the guy props, dude. He brought out his dude. He brought out his dude. Great. Okay. Now, what does white need to do? He needs to put the rooks on e1 and d1. Good move. Bad move. Calculating all the variations after d5 and e5 took all my time. So after 8 minutes, I thought a calm, improving move, preparing h6, would help my center thrust. Tactically, this move loses an important pawn. It also loses a tempo, right? So you are worse here, first of all. It's got to be said. So you should expect in the variations to be like, well, I'm getting hurt because you're so far down in time. This is definitely the big question. Can you do it? The good news is the dude can't take yet. Bishop f3, and now you write e5. Frisky. Frisky, boss, because your center is really loosey-goosey. However, if we imagine playing a move like developing, bishop d7, we can say that you are worse, but that you aren't toast. You still have a position that dude has to crack. Now, like I said before, these guys, maybe they don't have epic positional understanding, but dude does find a nice tactic here. Pop. Pop. Very nice. Very nice. And now we are strategically lost, but we still have some hope. I'm hoping for rook h8 here. Good. Now we're going to get a trade out. And now what's interesting is that white has to be sensitive to the fact that black's king is better and that black has a dream. And that dream is to activate the bishop. Unfortunately for us, I think the knight is too strong. However, my experience tells me that white's going to give us a chance here. Let's read what Nose writes. After a sequence of only moves, I'm left with a terrible bishop against a good knight, dark square weaknesses everywhere, and I'm down a pawn. Recognizing that I was completely lost here, all the tension that was slowly building up during the game disappeared immediately. Now it doesn't matter anymore if I make a bad move. I'm already completely lost. Now, like I said, I think that in a technical sense, that is true. In a practical sense, I don't think this dude has what it takes to put you down here. I think you have every right to be hopeful about putting up a defense against this person. You're not playing Magnus Carlsen here, son. So A little bit too much sadness. And in fact, you end up drawing the game. So let's talk about your assets. Your assets are you have a better king. White owes you time with their king. And white must find a way to keep your bishop in lockdown. And it will be a challenge for white, especially if even you just imagine the white position here. Like if we do nothing, can really just make improving moves. And it's a little bit, not super simple for white to do it. Okay, rook a1 can't be bad. And now our problem is that if d5, dude has knight c5. So you played rook b8. Time to be as annoying as possible. Okay, I think a5 is also a reasonable looking move. And this is going to help you open the position a5 will. So I think better is rook d2 with the intention of someday soon playing knight d6. a5 helps you get a little frisky here. Could you have played a5 directly? I think you could. Okay. Okay. So is white making their life easier or harder with this? There's no doubt that we're in trouble, but I don't really like it. White's playing without their king here. All right, I think bishop a6 is interesting. Let's see what you did. a5. If the only thing that matters is activity, I might as well get on with activating my pieces. It took me 9 minutes to calculate white's tricky attempts to break me. Okay. These are some really good notes, dude. This is very good notes. So even if I disagree with your pessimism, I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. These are great notes. This is how you improve. Absolutely. a3. Now, I'm not sure I like this AB move. Like, why are we doing it? And could we have played bishop a6? I'm not sure, but the variation would go something like bishop a6, knight c5, bishop c4. Am I worried? Yeah, trust me, I'm worried. I'm worried about it. But still, there's questions. Maybe a variation to knock us out might be rook h4. Let's just put our bishop here somewhere sad for a second. Then give us a check. And then see, the point is if we go king d8, then he goes here, check here, and here. Okay, so I think by all means, though, we should be looking at every move to see if we can make bishop a6 work. Okay, let's look. Pop, pop. Reasonable. Okay. Good, dude. Good. Okay. Now, I think this is correctamundo, and it's got to be said that this has been the dream all along. So, for example, if I was coaching white, I'd be like, dude, you need to fix your king. You need to eventually put the knight in. Okay? We do not, under no circumstances, want to allow black to play d6. That is the pawn. That's the pawn where he wants. Black wants to put his pawns on like d6 and e5. That's what I would tell dude. Okay? You had one job. You had one job, and that was to prevent that. This is now you're letting white get like a little frisky. And knight c5 is already like, I don't get it. Because now good and good. Played with only 12 minutes on the clock, but by activating my bishop, my game is now actually interesting. And from experience, I can tell you it is eminently possible for white to lose this position. The bishop can get angry. White has not fixed their king. The same way we were talking about the sensitivity of the pieces. So often we see people who aren't sensitive to their king. Check to the miserable rook. Check to the miserable rook. Knight f6. A little fancy. Dude has gotten very fancy. And now you might try for a win. Right? A lot of times people think of their earlier positions and are like, there's no way I can win this. But Baus, this guy, he wasn't sensitive. Look at the king. H3. Well, that's not inspiring confidence, is it? All right. So probably rook b3, but we have other moves too. Okay. Bishop d7, please. Oh. There was that, but good. There was a problem, as dude knows, with bishop d7. These are great notes, dude. So let's go back, actually. So obviously, dude is playing with like increment here. So, mistakes are going to be made. I made some horrendous mistakes this weekend on the increment. It's hard to find another move or idea besides rook b3. So, okay, here we go. Pop, pop, pop. Check to the miserable. Good. And I'll just say it again. You have chances to win this thing. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so dude is going to get more time after move 40. Rook d2. A committal move played after a long think. And Nose says that f3 was definitely better. Now, I have a question about f3, though. Oh, I see. So the problem is, if black wants to play d5, but then this is going to happen, right? Question. I'm thinking of joining the dojo, but I first want to finish my regiment for the year. Okay, interesting. So that's the issue. And yeah, okay. Yeah, f3 definitely stronger. And just also in general, this can't be it. Now your king is like really close to that passed d pawn. All right. Let's go d5. Good. Let's go d4. I'm not sure I like it. d4, my original intention. Check to the miserable. And now you write king f6. King e6, h4. Okay, I mean, I get it. It's scary. So the point would be that on king d5, dude's going to check us. Just a quick variation here. Let's go here. Just bear with me a second. Here. Let's go here. But then it's gonna get hot. It's gonna get real hot. I go here. That's the intention here. So, what are we talking about here? So this is speaking to d4. I feel like it's the ambitious move, right? And this guy deserves to be played ambitiously against because dude has no understanding of the endgame. Okay, now e4. The problem is now the king will get a blockading position, right? So white has a reasonable blockade on my pawns, but so do I. In the game, I still felt like this should be a draw unless white has a spectacular sequence right around here. Okay. Now, let me just say, I know that you're thinking about this as a draw. You have chances to win this thing. So like that other, now maybe not so much because the king attained the blockading position, like I said, but you still could have chances here to win this thing. Okay. So let's look, check the miserable king. That's not intuitive to me. King e5. h4. Good move. He might get mated. He might get mated. King f1, frisky. King f4. Maybe. d4. I mean, I feel like d4 is the move. d4, g5, d3, king e1. And now the good news is, at a minimum, you have rook e2 check. At a minimum. So we know you're not losing this thing. You also have rook a1 check, as you write. And unfortunately, I don't think we have more. Okay. King f4. The move I'm most proud of in this game, and one that took me more than 10 minutes to find, now that both the h and g pawns are stopped in their tracks, I can look to push my d pawn next while white's king is off sides. Okay. I want to say it's not immediately obvious to me. So white should play rook d7. No. I don't understand king g2. Why would you do it? Thank you. Rook d7. Okay. Yeah, so you're just trying to force a draw when this chump, who knows what they're doing? Who knows what we're doing? Definitely d3. And by the way, d3, like this guy's playing so bad, you have chances to win. Like, I don't know what he's doing with his king and stuff. Okay. King g4. Yeah. Draw offered by me since he had 1 minute left, and now we've reached a Philidor. He replied, maybe later. Let's play on for a bit. I'd play on too. Let's see your technique. No, he's just, white did not do it. Yeah, it was possible to do anyway, but here we go. Good. Good, dude. Okay, now I just want to say I'm going to feature this game. Pop! So that game's featured. Great annotations, dude. This is what we need for anybody to improve. We've got good variations. We've got evaluations, some thoughts like why we miss stuff. Absolutely. This is what's going on. And if the only mild critique I would say is if we could get, like, instead of saying 10 minutes, if we could say, like, just write down, I don't know, 1 hour, 10 left or something like that. But still, beautiful annotations, too. And one thing I really like about this is, like, not only is Nose showing, doing it himself, clearly improving, but Nose is active in the Discord helping other people. And then, if you have somebody in the Discord helping people, it's really good when they're putting out the example of the work that needs to be done as well. Okay, my friends, that was a great show.